An engine bleed has forced NASA to scratch the launch of Artemis-1. Controllers struggling to get an engine on the 100-metre tall vehicle cooled down its correct operating temperature. NASA says a second attempt could happen this week. So joining us live now is Glen Nagle from the CSIRO-NASA tracking station. Glen, so put simply, what happened?
So one of the four engines on the new Space Launch System rocket failed to cool down sufficiently, and they need to do that because when they fire the engines, it blasts through super cold fluid, so you don't want to shock the engine, and they just couldn't quite get that fourth engine down to the temperature they wanted to.
Is that an easy fix, Glen?
Well, it literally is rocket science, Peter, so it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with. They actually did try a few things last night and just felt that they ran out of time in the launch window that they had, that 2 hours, to be able to get the next attempt of a fix through. So they'll have a look at it. They'll get technicians up on the pad. They'll go and have a look at the engine, see if it might be just a stuck valve or something relatively simple. And then they'll try again, sort of late Friday night into Saturday morning, to launch this massive rocket off to the moon.
Are you sure it'll be then? That doesn't seem like very far away.
Well, yeah, it's only going to take a few days to really assess the problem. And they looked at a whole range of things on the rocket, and they were fixing them literally during the course of the countdown last night. So I think that they're pretty confident that they can have a look, see if they can find out what the problem is. If they can fix it by Friday, then they'll certainly go. They've got another launch window in the early morning hours of the 6th of September. And then they have to wait a couple of weeks because if they try to launch a day or two after that, the moon's actually not going to be in the right place. So they've actually got plenty of time over the next couple of weeks and even months ahead if they had to be able to ensure that they can fix this problem and get off that launch pad.
I mean, there's so much at stake here, isn't there, Glen, that you can't take any risks, because if you do and something bad were to happen, that's, you know, potentially, what, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars that goes up in smoke.
Yeah, it would be a major setback if anything was to go wrong. And then, look, you've got to remember there's well over 2.5 million individual components on this spacecraft. Anything could stop at any particular time. They had issues last night, even just with a software issue. The configuration on a particular little software on the spacecraft actually failed, and they were able to get in there and actually fix that within about 11 minutes. And that would have been actually the communication link to the Orion spacecraft that the rocket's carrying, that we would have been the first station in the world to have contact with. So they were being really cautious. The team's there, confident, lots of experience. So I'm sure they'll work through these issues.
That was going to be my next question, Glen. Any type of Australian involvement in this test flight? So we are involved in a way.
Oh, absolutely. We're involved 100%. So to get any spacecraft anywhere in the solar system and to places like the moon, you need a communication system. So our station here in Canberra, managed by the CSIRO, is part of NASA's Deep Space Network. 3 stations around the planet that provide 24-hour coverage to the many dozens of robotic spacecraft across the solar system, and of course now for the Artemis missions to the moon, this first test flight and the ongoing missions with crews on board.
Yeah, so this is just a test flight, just a reminder for people. So we're not putting a man on the moon for this one, but eventually we will, hopefully, in 3 years from now, which doesn't seem to be that far away. So what's the purpose of this flight? It's just mapping the route, right?
Yeah, it's literally testing a brand new rocket system and new moonship for astronauts. So the launch and everything will actually find out whether the rocket itself works 100%, just the way we want it to. We'll track this new trajectory to the moon, a slightly longer path than we did the Apollo days. So rather than the 4 days that Armstrong and others took to get there, this is going to be an 8-day journey. And that's to put the spacecraft into a special orbit around the moon, something that we've not done before. Previous missions were just around the equator. This is more a halo orbit around the moon so that we can actually cover areas of the moon not previously explored. And the plan is by 2025 to be able to land near the south pole of the moon, a place where there are deep water ice-filled craters that we can use that as a resource for ongoing exploration. The craft, of course, will orbit there for about a week to 2 weeks and then return to Earth, splashing down in the Pacific Ocean. So this is a full-scale dress rehearsal, if you like, for those eventual human missions.
So, and it's just, forces that swing it on back home?
Yeah, so a combination of rocket engine firings and also gravity. So to actually get to the moon, they're going to have to fly within 100 kilometres of the surface, using the moon's gravity to actually pull it into that big elliptical orbit, flying actually 70,000 kilometres beyond the moon before the gravity pulls it back again. That'll be the furthest any human-rated spacecraft has been before. And then to leave, you need a fire engine, fly again within 100 kilometres of the surface of the moon to slingshot you back to the Earth.
Yeah, this is amazing stuff, Glenn. I mean, when's the last time you would have been this excited about any kind of trip into space?
Yesterday, all I could think about that I was that 7-year-old sitting at home watching those grainy black and white television images being brought to me by dishes here in Canberra, particularly at the Honeysuckle Creek tracking station and the CSIRO's Parkes Radio Telescope up in New South Wales, and never realising as a 7-year-old that, 53 years later, I'd be working at a NASA and CSIRO tracking station getting ready for that next mission to take people back to the moon. And I think of the inspiration this mission will have for that new generation. And imagine what they'll be doing in another 50 years from now.
Well, do you think it's going to be a similar type moment in 3 years' time when we all gather around, not just a TV, but it'll be computer screens, phones, watches, whatever, wherever you watch things, we'll be watching this trip again?
Yeah, this is a mission of the social media age. We'll be able to watch it, on our phones in full colour, possibly even in 3D, as not the next man, but the first woman and the first people of colour and the next guy get to actually walk on the moon. And that'll be a moment in time that really, again, will be a history-making, game-changing moment in history where we're going as all humanity. Amazing.
Glenn, appreciate your time this morning. That's Glen Nagle there from the CSIRO-NASA tracking station. Appreciate your time. I look forward to talking to you a few more times over the course of the next 3 or 4 years too about all this.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks. I really look forward to seeing you again.